Assalamu alaikum everyone. Peace be on you. This is Dr. Naureen Sohail. Welcome back to season 2 of the podcast channel Illuminate. We're going to continue with the relationship series. This is the third podcast in this series. Today we're going to talk about compromise. Compromise is one of the elements that is underestimated in relationships. In my view, this too, like respect, is in capital letters. Compromise is often taken as a negative entity. People want their partners to accept them 100%, as is. They don't want to bend, accommodate, adapt, etc. In my perspective, the stick that doesn't bend breaks. Look at the two key elements in nature, air and water. Both readily adapt, change, conform to their environment, yet have great strength. Relationships require ongoing effort from both partners to nurture the connection. This includes being willing to compromise and find solutions together. Compromise is actually the glue to the relationship. Compromise does not mean being deprived of something. Compromise means to be able to willingly, happily give. You make an effort to make your partner happy, whether it is by washing dishes while your wife is taking a shower, or by putting out a garbage on a cold night when your husband falls asleep on the couch. All responsibilities are interchangeable in a relationship, and compromise makes it easier. Compromise does not mean one partner giving in all the time. It has a CO in it, like collaboration, cooperation, meaning both parties have to make concessions to come to a solution. It is a Latin word meaning making a promise together or agreement together. In a healthy relationship, compromises are made in as need arise basis. Let me give you a personal example. My husband is self-employed, so he has flexible hours. He usually works afternoons, and I, on the other hand, am an employee of a bigger organization, so I have fixed hours. We had 4 kids together, so you can imagine how many phone calls we would have received from the school in case of illnesses, falls, forgotten homework, and of course, the occasional teacher complaints. We had our fair share. Even though I was the main contact with the school, it was a silent agreement between us that my husband would tend to those needs in a reasonable time frame. He would drop whatever he was doing and show up at the school to meet the needs of our kids. I, on the other hand, made sure that I pick up my children's responsibilities for after-school programs and over-the-weekend activities, so that he gets time to catch up on his work. While both of the partners are coming from different perspectives, no one's perspective is more important than the other's. So compromise bonds a healthy relationship. While compromise may not always be easy, it's critical and only fair for both people to make sacrifices in compromise. The perfect solution isn't always evident. Sometimes you'll have to take some time to brainstorm a reasonable compromise for both people. Be creative. In a healthy relationship, you may not always feel ecstatic, but you love the other person and want to bring your best to the table as often as you can. Another thing to remember is that, like all other elements in a relationship, compromise is also like an echo. When you give your best, it echoes back to you. The biggest compromise of Islamic history was Sulh Hudaybiyah, and it echoed back as the victory of Mecca. You won't always approach a compromise joyfully and ready to sacrifice, well, for the sake of the relationship, but you'll do your best. So it's completely normal for you to not feel in the giving mood sometimes. But if one or both of you is constantly approaching compromise in a selfish way or being manipulative, that's a problem. Compromise can be especially difficult if one or both people are manipulative and selfish. So, not only do they want the other person to give more, but they'll actively do and say things to make their friend or partner feel guilty if they don't sacrifice more in a compromise. This is the kind of compromise that we often see in our society, and it has a negative bearing. It is not fair to call it a compromise, it is abuse. The fine line between compromise and abuse is often obliterated. It is so easy to become an abuser as a parent, as a spouse, as a person of authority at work and other situations. The society pushes us in the me mindset. Words like think about yourself, take care of yourself, what about you and your wishes, etc., are heard and valued all the time. In my point of view, it creates a selfish society instead of a selfless one that Islam promotes. I feel that in a relationship, the question, what would make my partner happy, is more important than what would make me happy. So, selflessness rather than selfishness flourishes the relationship. And remember, it will echo back to you. Another point to note is that compromise is dependent on open communication, active listening, flexibility, and empathy. These are the 4 pillars of compromise. Compromise will not be able to stand tall and hold the relationship together if it is not supported by these 4 pillars. Although various relationship resources coach you to not to lose your self-identity while compromising, I feel that for me, losing my identity for the relationship that Allah Ta'ala has bestowed upon me, so in the bigger picture, losing my identity for the sake of Allah Ta'ala has always worked. When I give up on my shopping desires to save to give donation for the benefit of the larger humanity, or when I sacrificed my luxurious life in Pakistan to come live in a basement in Canada to raise my son with hearing loss, fulfilling a duty that Allah Ta'ala gave me as a mother, in return to my selflessness, Allah Ta'ala gave me a new identity that is more beautiful, more fruitful, and closer to Allah Ta'ala than my previous self. It may sometimes feel that you are the only one compromising, but trust me, when you compromise for Allah Ta'ala's sake, you're never at a disadvantage. Allah Ta'ala always makes sure that it echoes back to you. Keep pondering until next time. This podcast is a humble effort in gratitude to Allah Ta'ala. It is based on Dr. Naureen Sohail's observations, personal experiences, thoughts, and learning while navigating her own life as a Canadian Muslim.